Taking care of your family starts with taking care of yourself. What have you done to take care of yourself today? What did you do yesterday or the day before? Please tell me that you are taking care of yourself, your mind, your body, your soul. I absolutely do not care what it is, just whatever makes you feel good, whatever feeds your soul, like the deep down you. Because this shit is hard. The thousands of things that we need to do every single day, the countless pieces of information we need to remember, the endless jobs and responsibilities, the emotions of other people that we need to think about and help to manage every day. All while our own emotions are, well, what are they even? Have you even had the opportunity to consider what your own emotions are for a minute? You're exhausted, like beyond tired, like just so exhausted. It's beyond physical exhaustion, right? It's also mental exhaustion and emotional exhaustion. Like my soul is just really tired. Anyone else? Well, if so, you are absolutely 100% not alone in feeling this way. I can at least speak for myself and for like the three whole friends that I have the actual opportunities to talk to. But we need to remember to take care of ourselves so we can take care of our families, not the other way around. It's not like a reward if we take care of them. We don't get rewarded with the ability to take time for ourselves. We need that time for ourselves. We can't pour from an empty cup. So do something for you today. So today I have worked out and I have done a deep dive into the latest Not Kate Middleton video, which seemingly was taken with the 1963 Zapruder film camera because that is the quality of the images that you see from it. And no, I do not typically buy into conspiracy theories, but this one, it has a real Free Britney Weekend at Bernie's vibe to it, right? Anyway, whatever it is, even if it's a deep dive down a rabbit hole, do something for you to feed your soul, to fill your cup, because you know that everyone is going to be asking you for a refill soon, and you need something to draw from. Hey guys, it's Jen. This is another episode of Reframing Me, and I am your host, Dr. Jennifer Brubaker. I am so happy to be recording this with you because it means that I have successfully survived 2 college visits and 1 driver's license appointment in the last week. I can only hope that I will find myself recording again next week, which would imply that I have survived the 3rd and I believe final college visit, as well as a trip to Boston to present at an academic conference. But do not worry, I will be taking a break to relax after that because I will be leading my family of 10 across the US to visit family in Phoenix and travel to Sedona over my kids' spring break. Y'all, I am just drowning over here. I am drowning in work. I am drowning in laundry. I am gone every single night at a lacrosse game or a track meet. Like, seriously, last week it was literally 4 nights of lacrosse games, and the 5th night was a track meet. Oh, and then Saturday soccer because my oldest has decided to play on a rec soccer team again after taking a 4-year hiatus. And so that was fun. And I'm not going to lie, it was a bit emotional too. The trip down memory lane, I mean, it's just really, really been a lot lately. And I did have a bit of a meltdown on Saturday morning. I mean, I came through fine on the other side of it. It needs to happen sometimes, right? When you physically just don't know if you can handle any more. We have talked about it before. I know. I'm pretty sure it was at one point when I was feeling so much stress that I thought, oh my God, this is like the most possible stress that I could ever possibly feel. I can't even imagine any more stress. Well, y'all, senior year was like, nah, girl, hold my beer. So, yeah, I may have made it through my meltdown the other day, but I am not going to lie. I am a hot mess right now. I really am. I can barely think straight. My mind is running in so many different directions. It's like I kind of feel like I just want to cry at every moment, and not because of anything like sad or upsetting, just more because I am so overwhelmed and just feel like I am drowning. I know I've said that already, but it's just the best way that I can describe it. This college decision process is, in a word, excruciating. And yes, that's probably dramatic, but it is. And if you haven't been through this process, I am guessing you're like, she's exaggerating. But I promise you, I would have thought the same thing, but I am not. It's like we're living in this limbo. First, there was the wait for acceptance period, which thankfully for us wasn't too bad because he's a good kid and a good student and he 100% checked all of the boxes. So that was pretty simple. But I do know that that's not the case for everyone. But now, this final round of can you actually envision living here? College campus tours has really brought things to a new level. Last week, we toured two of his top three schools, and now one of them is 4 hours away from us, and the other is 8 minutes. And yes, I know that exact time because it is also the campus that I have spent the last 17 years of my life on. Now, he loved them both. And I think it's been especially difficult for me. I mean, without trying to get into the woe is me, it's much harder for me thing because it's not a contest. And I know it is equally hard for everyone who's going through this, but it's been hard right now. And I guess by hard, I mean the emotional roller coaster of it. But it's been extra challenging because he really only applied to my school, our school, for me, like because he felt like he should as a backup plan, not really because he had any interest going there. So I never even considered it. Obviously, not because it's not an amazing school, because it totally is, but more because it's 8 minutes from home and he basically grew up on the campus. But I think actually touring it, he realized how great it is there and why so many kids actually choose to come here from far away to be here. And that no, he didn't really grow up on the campus. He grew up coming to like one building. So I went from not having any expectation that he would choose the school close to home to it's actually a top contender. And then his other option is such a long, painful drive. And again, I obviously realize that kids go away much farther than 4 hours. But again, not a competition, and 4 hours is a lot farther than upstairs. And it's really not a round trip weekend visit distance. So it's not really all that different from being a more significant distance away, I guess, is how I think of it. So I'm here in this awful limbo, alternating between, well, he'll be living down the street and popping home whenever, or I'll see him like what, once a month, once every 2 months. And the final school this week is 2 hours away. So it's literally smack dab in between. I just have no idea at this point what I should be preparing myself for. So yeah, it's just floating here in this limbo. And this limbo, on top of the emotions that accompany having a senior and preparing for graduation and dealing with his senioritis and soiling the nest and ordering caps and gown and all of it's the end of a chapter, the end of an era kind of feels, right? And if that hasn't been enough emotional torture for me, my middle turned 16 on St. Patrick's Day. And so we went and he got his driver's license yesterday. yes, somehow by the grace of God, I actually found all of the 1,000 documents that I needed to bring with us. The documents, of course, that because I am the default parent, I am the one who bears the mental load of knowing not only which documents he needed and having his appointment made 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time, but also where those documents are, because I have been the one who has carefully held on to those documents for the last 16 years, just for moments specifically like this one. Oh, and there was that very touch and go moment around midnight on Friday when I realized that, oh my God, I had in fact forgotten to call the insurance agent to add him on to our policy, which he needed yet another document from. So there was the very mad dash between when the insurance company opened at 8:30 on Monday morning and his appointment, which was scheduled an hour away from my house at 9:30 a.m. to get an actual hard printed copy in hand, because heaven forbid we were able to use an electronic copy. So all of this while being harshly aware that he's 16. And 16 is a really big kid, a really mature kid. And 16 was when my oldest really grew up. Like all of the good and wonderful, yes. But that was when I really felt a change in him, and subsequently a change in me. So yeah, that's a whole other layer to unpack over here. I mean, if I actually had a spare second to unpack it, because let's be honest for a minute, it's times just like this, the times when you need to actually unpack all of your stuff, when you need to journal and you need to meditate more than ever. It's these times that you don't have a spare second to do it, right? Like I try, I really do. But if something needs to go from the day, if I need to free up some time, I'm not going to lie. Those are the things that are going to go first, for sure. But I don't have time for that. No. As I mentioned, I am drowning in laundry and drowning in cleaning up and groceries and sports and everything else that keeping a family of 5 operating smoothly on a daily basis entails. But no, do not worry. I absolutely will not complain about that work one bit, because if I were to catch myself having even just one little negative thought, my immediate next thought, because I've done this, would be, you are being ungrateful. Do not take this for granted. Enjoy this moment. Enjoy every moment. It's going to be over so soon. You'll be maintaining a house full of 4 people in a few months, and then it will be only 3 in 2 more years, and then it will be just Tig and I after a year after that, and let the spiral commence. So no, I will not be complaining about the housework that I am currently drowning in because of the aforementioned college decision stress spiral I am already in. I just cannot do both right now. I'm sorry. But do not worry, I don't even have time to spiral, because I have a conference to prepare for that I am absolutely currently 100% unprepared for. But I also have grading and advising to do for work before I leave. And what I actually want to be doing is working on the podcast, because, podcasts, they don't grow by themselves. And I need to tend to that too. So yeah, that was a very long way of saying that I absolutely did not need the emotional trip down memory lane to the soccer fields that we spent every Saturday morning on for like 13 years. But we have talked about stress before. We talked about stress and the life cycle. We've said that as family members age, they each pass through various biological, physical, cognitive, emotional, through all of these different stages of development. And that as each person changes, the family changes as a whole too. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. That's where we're at. And I'm not going to lie, this part sucks. Yes, it's amazing to watch them growing into such wonderful humans with such bright futures, and to watch it all happen for them is awesome. But it can be sad too, right? And it's hard. It's so very hard to have absolutely everything changing. To know that even if he puts on the rec soccer jersey and he plays on the very same fields, it will still never be the same again. And yes, this part is great, and the next will be too. But that one was great too. And I loved it, and it's gone. And that's hard, right? But we need to embrace the new stages, because if not, we become trapped in old patterns of communication. We come to an impasse that inhibits our abilities to change. Families can become caught in communication patterns and in role relationships that are relevant to one stage of development, but inappropriate for the current stage that we're in. We've talked about it before, about the life cycle approach to studying families. And this was like when families are unable to let go of those previous stages in life together. And we don't want that, because that's when problems happen. So we note these predictable developmental stressors, right? And as hard as it is, we need to embrace the changes and move through them. Now, I mentioned the life cycle approach to studying family communication, and I've just realized, and this is totally what I needed right now, but I've just realized when I was preparing this episode that I think this means that now my family, we are moving into the launching family stage. And I don't think that I'm ready to be in this stage. I started teaching this stuff when we were in the families with young children stage. And then when we were in the families with adolescent stage. But now I guess we're on the cusp of the launching family stage, kind of balanced precariously between the families with adolescent stage and the launching family stage. And each, of course, has their own sets of issues to contend with, right? Now, families with adolescents, they need to do things like increase the flexibility of their boundaries so that they can allow for more independence. And there's a shift to caring for older generations, and you need to refocus on midlife, marital, and career issues. Which, now that I've said it out loud, oh my God, look, that's exactly what we've both been doing with our careers here recently. But now I guess we have one foot in launching families, or we're about to at least. And in that stage, you need to renegotiate the marital system and manage the change in our relationships with our kids, from that one of parent-child to that one that's more adult-adult relationships. And that this stage deals with aging or dying parents and grandparents, and accepting a multitude of exits and entries in and out of the family system, which, yes, you know what? This has also been going on in my house and in my head these past weeks, because I feel like all of the kids who have been such a part of our home and our lives for the last few years, they all seem to be dealing with their own individual cases of senioritis, and they're all starting to separate from each other a bit. And it's just so weird and different lately. And that too makes me sad. And then I've been seeing one of my son's old girlfriends, who I just adored, and her family lately at track meets. And it did make me feel, again, that kind of sad, right? Like, I miss her being around feeling, you know? And I guess all of that will be the norm around here for a while, since we only have one of our feet in this stage at this point. What I do know for sure about the life cycle perspective is that it's the transitions between these life cycle stages where it is the hardest. So yeah, right where so many of us are right now. But it's the hardest here because we're learning to adapt to this new stage and to the new way of life that comes with it. We will cope because I also know that, yes, they are stressors, but stressor events themselves are not positive or negative. These events, they're all neutral until we place our interpretations on them. So we have the ability to frame them any way that we want to. So ultimately, I know that I will cope. I have the resources and I will adapt. But right now, it all feels really, really icky. So when I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, I knew that there was no way to keep all of this that's in my head right now out of it. And really, there's no reason to keep it out, right? I started this podcast with the goal of helping other women just like me to understand why things in their families and in their lives and in their psyches are the way that they are. And then the second to show that they're not alone. You're not alone in feeling the way that you do. And I know that there are so many of you out there who feel like you are also an absolute mess, like you are drowning. You are just holding on by a very quickly fraying thread, right? And if I come on here today and I'm like, oh, wow, today is such a beautiful day. Life is perfect. Teenagers are great. I am so together. Let me just talk at you and tell you things. Now, that wouldn't be helping you, right? That's not recognizing that many of you are struggling too. That's not actively listening when you reach out and tell me that you are drowning too, which you do. What's actually helpful is hearing that you are not alone. So today, when I feel this, I feel like I need to share it with you. This shit is hard. It is so very hard. So hard to keep a family functioning day after day, managing food and groceries and laundry and remembering to call for insurance and knowing where the birth certificates and social security cards are and what classes they should sign up for next year and their classes now, trying to push them for good grades while not obsessing over and making them feel like their grades are all that matters. And did you remember to turn in the dual enrollment form to my counselor? And did you wash my lacrosse uniform for 4 games a week? And did you get the prescriptions filled? And on and on and on and on. And then working a full-time job, right? And trying desperately to somehow manage everyone's emotions that come along with all of this stress and this change and the chaos of everyday life. And the hot flashes. Okay, so do hot flashes get worse when you're under stress? I need to Google that. I'll add it to the list. But I will not complain because then I start the "it will all be over so soon" spiral. And no, we do not want to revisit that. But do not worry, my friends, because I have a quote vacation coming up next week, 2 weeks. Go to Boston for a conference this week. And then I guess it's like 9 or 10 days from now that we go. I'm not really 100% sure how this trip even came to be, just that I knew we wanted to go somewhere over spring break. And then my sister and my brother-in-law, they mentioned about a completely different trip at another point in time. And my parents, they really wanted to travel to see my aunt and uncle in Arizona, but my mom doesn't like to travel, but it's good to travel with us. Well, yada, yada, yada. Ends up, I am leading this group of 10, ages 8 to 81, to Arizona to first visit with family in Phoenix and then go to Sedona and the Grand Canyon. I think, or rather, I thought that I had managed to plan a trip that would actually make everyone moderately happy and fit everyone's needs and wants, from my dad getting to spend time with his brother, to my kids getting to hike, and my niece getting to horseback ride. I thought I had factored everyone in until my daughter was like, "Will we get to spend a day at the beach?" We all looked at her like, what the fuck? It's Arizona, like a literal desert. There are no beaches. And we live at the goddamn beach. So yeah, she's now unhappy because, quote, everyone else is going to a beach. So it's going great over here. The vacation planning, fantastic. But I do think at least 8 out of my 9 fellow travelers are moderately excited, maybe, or maybe I'm delusional. I have planned the zoo and botanical gardens and lots of hiking in the Grand Canyon and, a train to the Grand Canyon and a helicopter ride and, of course, the family visits. But alas, there will be no beach. But however, I did plan the trip so that we could get home with a couple of days to spare that we can, in fact, spend at our beach. Do we think that will suffice? My sister's like, well, write that one on your little notepad over there. You can manage to squeeze in the beach on the itinerary, right? Yes. I should add that's my younger sister, who she is one of the 9 people. I mean, she's my only sister, but my younger sister, who is one of the 9 people who will show up excited to find out where we're going and what we're doing on this trip that I have planned for everyone. But I'm the oldest daughter, so that's what I do. And for my fellow oldest daughters, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? It seems like lately, people are finally starting to take notice of all that we do out there to keep our families running. If you are the oldest daughter, chances are you have forwarded a meme or a tweet or two to one of your friends who I'm guessing is also an oldest daughter because, well, similarity attraction theory. But you forwarded something like, it's time we acknowledge that older sisters are the backbone of our society. Or we could fix pretty much every problem in 2 weeks if we put a committee of oldest daughters in charge. But it's a thing. Really, it's such a thing. And if you are an oldest daughter, or if you have an oldest daughter, you 100% know this to be true. It's our job. It's a role that we play in our families. So that is actually, in fact, what I intended to have a conversation about today. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the term, oldest daughter syndrome refers to a specific set of psychological and behavioral traits that are often observed in the oldest female child of a family, like me. It's talked about and it's studied overlapping in a number of different disciplines like communication, obviously, psychology, family dynamics, gender studies. We've talked before on here about birth order and about roles. So I've really been wanting to touch on this oldest daughter syndrome concept for a while. And while planning a vacation for like my entire family, including activities with extended families, well, it just seemed like the perfect time. Now, the life path of the oldest daughter has put us, like me and possibly you, but it's put us in a position to be responsible and to be hands-on, thoughtful of others' feelings and needs, caring, leaders. It's taught us all of these things. And because of being trained to take the lead from such a young age, we do often, in fact, become leaders. The oldest daughter often bears the weight of a unique set of expectations and responsibilities for the family. She, we'll refer to her as she and not me, but she is typically like she's seen as a role model for her younger siblings, expected to exhibit maturity and responsibility from a very young age. And this can even lead to the oldest daughter taking on somewhat of a third parent kind of role that can include taking care of or providing emotional support for younger siblings or helping out around the house. And the psychological weight of these responsibilities, it can be substantial. And yes, it can totally foster traits like high levels of conscientiousness, a strong sense of duty, reliability, leadership, being perfect. However, it can also lead to stress and anxiety and a feeling of being overwhelmed by expectations and the need to be perfect. Check, check, and check, and check. There is a tendency for oldest daughters to excel, both academically and professionally. And this can be kind of attributed to the combination of the high expectations that have been placed on them, as well as their own internal drive to set a good example. However, this achievement-oriented mindset, it can also come with its own set of challenges, such as fear of failure, imposter syndrome, an overemphasis on success as being a measure of their self-worth. Check, check, and check. Oldest daughters, they often develop strong leadership skills and strong interpersonal skills, which are due to their role within the family. However, these characteristics, they can also create challenges in personal relationships. Things like struggling with delegating tasks, giving a hard time relinquishing control. Check, check. This comes because of their early family responsibilities. And there's a propensity to gravitate towards that caregiving role, even if it's at the expense of their own needs. And checkmate. So researchers find that the hallmark of oldest daughter syndrome is independence and self-reliance. And while these are totally commendable traits, they can sometimes lead to difficulties in asking for help or acknowledging any type of vulnerability. There's a pressure for these women to maintain a facade of strength and competence. And so it often seems like these women totally have their shit together. But let me tell you, they are often a hot fucking mess inside. And yes, we have talked about birth order, and a number of these points definitely do just fit in with being the oldest, but they are often quite more prominent in daughters because of more gendered expectations. So oldest daughter syndrome, 100% a thing. And it seems to come out of the perfect storm of familial and societal and individual factors overlapping. So how do we fix this? Well, if you can figure that one out, let us know. But I feel like if there was actually an answer, it would definitely have been oldest daughters who were capable of finding it. So alas, other than trying to break the generational trauma with your own oldest daughters, I don't know what to tell you. And let's be honest, your daughters, they're probably teenagers now, so the damage is already done. So maybe your granddaughters, they'll maybe learn how to set better boundaries and say no. But realistically, that's the only way to work on this, by setting boundaries for ourselves and setting different expectations of what others should have for us and what they can expect from us. And being able to recognize these limits in ourselves and recognize that our own validity as a human is not related to our accomplishments that we do. So until that time that somebody figures this out, just keep laughing at the memes and keep sending them to your friends who, again, most likely are also oldest daughters. Similarity attraction theory and the basic idea of birds of a feather, right? Meanwhile, I will just be over here planning everyone's vacations and holidays and lives, so don't mind me. Thank you so much for listening today and always. If you've enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends. That's how we will grow our community. please go in. I would love if you would take some time to rate, obviously 5 stars, and review the show, because that's how the little algorithms will pick it up and share it to others. Find me on socials. On Facebook, it's Reframing Me, and join the Facebook group Reframing Me, the podcast community. And on Instagram and TikTok, it's at Reframing Me. Until next time, be well and communicate.